finished. I finished the stuff too. Thank you.
Yep, no worries.
Usually it doesn't. Usually it doesn't take me all of the time that I
Yeah,
that.
just next time, just do it after that first time or whatever. That's
Should I just start doing it at ninth period instead of or 10th period instead of?
if
I
you
mean, it's
have
still
tennis
period.
at 3:30, I guess that's what we'll have to do, right? Because these tests, you can't just sit there and do part of it and then come back to it later. It just
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
allow
I
you to do
understand.
that. All right. So Thursday, we've got 2 more days this week. Today's lesson, it is a little bit difficult. Before we hop into it, as you all know, we are having some people come back into school October 19th, starting October 19th. That changes kind of a lot of things. So instead of starting class at 8:30 every day, that does move us back to our normally scheduled school day. Even if you're at home or if you chose to come to school, you will have to show up at 7:20 to this course. So keep that in mind. The good news is for those of you that do stay home and those of you that come to school, this course won't change much. The school is allowing between 3 and 6 feet of contact between students, but that still doesn't allow us to have enough people at the lab stations to do actual labs. So what that means is I'll still be recording the laboratories. Zoom and classes will be about 20 minutes. Those of you that are in class, it's just as if you were to be at home. You'll have the time to work on that stuff. I'll have to do cleaning and and prepare the lessons just as I do now. Obviously, people can always join the Zoom and ask questions. People that are in class can raise their hand and ask questions. That's definitely okay. The last 10 minutes of class will be used for cleaning, and that will be done by me for general areas and students for their desks and stuff like that and stuff they've touched. And then we're doing something called staggered passing periods, which means that passing periods will somehow be extended and only certain people will be in the hall at a different time. So that will take up, between every period, probably 14 to 15 minutes. So keep that in mind. A lot of the time that you're that 20 minutes of Zoom, and then you've got a little bit of time left of class, and then you've got all this cleaning time, and then these staggered periods where you're traveling. So that does eat up time quite quickly versus the virtual students being able to basically just log on to the 20-minute Zoom and then go get their work done. The other thing with in class, as more morally speaking, I will not allow, during test taking time, you won't be able to use your phone or other websites and stuff like that. If I'm watching you, I'm assuming that people at home are being honest. And if you are in class, then you'll definitely need to be honest as well. So keep that in mind. You won't be able to, use outside resources except for what the test allows. Other than that, if you do come to school, you get the camaraderie. You actually get to meet the classmates that you see as just names right now as I look across the board. But it's not going to be the school that you left in March of this year. It's definitely different, as you can see. That's the spaces of the desks at this point. That's with 6 feet. Again, the school is allowing between 3 to 6 feet. In my classroom, I'm going to stick with what the CDC says, and I'm going to go with 6 feet. So keep that in mind too. But you do have time. I think you have until Sunday or next Friday or something like that to tell them which one you want to do. But I think that we have lost these 8:30 starting times at that point. So keep that in mind. That's going to be a big change, I think, for some of you. With that being said, let's do it. Let's get Thursday done. This is a hard day. So let's go ahead, first of all, let's go ahead and refresh what we learned yesterday. When naming a compound that has, let me grab my periodic table real quick. You should grab yours as well. When naming a compound that the first element, the metal, is in group 1A, 2A, or silver, zinc, or aluminum, we simply name that compound. The metal, sodium, and then the non-metal is carbide. Now, if you put carbonide for that, let's go through this real quick. Carbide, nitride, phosphide. If you need to write these down, go for it. Sulfide, oxide, and then the last are pretty easy. Fluoride, chloride, I'm not going to bother writing these down, bromide, and iodide. So those are all the nonmetals. As you look down through here, that's what you'll see off to the side there. There's only one exception, this last one down here. Hydrogen, remember it's over here. It can lose an electron or it can gain an electron and fill up that first energy level with 2. If it's written second, this would become aluminum hydride. Ki, potassium iodide. Cs, cesium, phosphide. K2O, potassium oxide. Rubidium chloride. Again, this is only if the element is in group 1A, 2A, or silver, zinc, or aluminum. If this first element is in group 1A, 2A, silver, zinc, or aluminum, then you can name it just like this. Then, yesterday, we went through this part. How to figure out the numbers for the subscripts here. Let me zoom in on this a little bit. How do we figure out those subscripts? It's based on making sure that that charge is balanced. So the first one, sodium chloride, NaCl, +1, -1, balanced. Barium chloride, BaCl, +2, -1, not balanced. We need 2 negative ones to balance out that positive one. So BaCl2. Lithium sulfide, Lis, +1, -2. What's the least common multiple of 1 and 2? It is 2. So 2 divided by 1 is 2 lithium, and 2 divided by 2 is 1 sulfur. Sodium sulfide, well, it's the same play. +1, -2. So we're going to need 2 of these +1s to balance out that -2. Magnesium oxide, MgO, +2, -2. It's balanced. Calcium iodide, Ca and I, +2, -1. Least common multiple is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1 calcium. 2 divided by 1 is 2 iodide. Sodium hydride, +1, -1 in this case, since it's written second. All right, since hydride, it has an ID ending, that means it's -1. +1, -1, KCl. Lithium fluoride, +1, -1. Magnesium chloride, +2, -1. Need 2 of these negatives. So when we do that Cl, we're going to have 2. Also, you could take the least common multiple way. 2 divided by 2 is 1 magnesium. 2 divided by 1 is 2 chlorides. Or you could sit there and do this. We have a plus and we have a negative. This is +2. We have more positives than negatives. We need to add another negative. Now it's balanced. How many Mg's do I have? 1. How many Cl's do I have? 2. That's that. That's as easy as it gets. From this point on, now it becomes difficult. If the metal that you're talking about is not in group 1A, 2A, or silver, zinc, or aluminum, if it's one of these guys, then the charge must be noted by writing a Roman numeral. A Roman numeral of 2 states that the charge of this copper is +2. A Roman numeral 1 states that the charge of this copper is +1. Because copper doesn't always give up the same number of electrons. It can choose to give up 1 or 2. And it just does this depending on what the states are where it's reacting. So now instead of just naming this nickel oxide, we've got to tell what the charge of this nickel is. Well, you can do this a few ways. The way we teach the younger kids is we write down everything that we've got. You're always going to know the charge of the negative because oxygen always has a -2 charge. So I'll open up the chat, but what is our total negative at this point? You can unmute and yell it or whatever you do. What is our total negative at this point? How many negative charges do we have at this point? -6. Good, good, good. So 2, 4, 6. So somehow we need +6. What must be the charge of each of these nickels to get that to be positive?
+3.
+3 for each one. Very good. So that means that now they have +6, and here we have -6. That means that the number that we put in here is going to be nickel 3 oxide. That is nickel 3 oxide. 2 nickels with a charge of +3 will balance out 3 oxygens with a charge of -2. Now, the quicker way to do this is you know the charge of the oxygen, so you have -2. 2 times 3 is equal to 6. 6 divided by 2 is equal to 3. So you go like kind of like a horseshoe. Boom, boom, multiply, divide. Boom, gives you your answer. Chloride is -1. So 2 divided by 1 is 2. So this is iron 2 chloride. That's it. Iron 2 chloride. Here's the kind of the funny thing. This one would be iron 3 chloride. -1 times 3 divided by 1. Iron 3 chloride. The number of irons does not change between iron 2 and iron 3. Just the charge of the iron changes.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So how do you know if it's 1 or 2?
It's the charge of the iron that tells you whether it's 1 or 2.
And how do you know the charge?
Well, it's just like I said. You always know the charge of the negative. So you take the charge of the negative, multiply it by the number of negatives, divide it by the number of positives. And that tells you the charge of the positive.
So you multiply it by the other one and then you divide by what?
You're using a lot of words that are very general. You take the charge of the anion, multiply it by the number of the anion, divide it by the number of the cation.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
2 times 3 divided by 2 is 3. 1 times 2 divided by 1 is 2. 1 times 3 divided by 1 is 3. That's it. Like I said, it is 4 times harder than what we did yesterday. The cool thing is this is very easy. So yesterday, whenever you were making these out, you had to look up magnesium's charges too. Okay, so magnesium has a +2 charge. I've got to keep that in mind. When they say copper 2, they tell you right away that copper's charge is +2. So all you got to look up is chloride's charge. What is chloride's charge? -1. So somebody tell me how we're going to make this formula. Cu blank Cl blank. What is it? What should the formula be for this one?
Would it be CuCl2?
Very good, Maddie. You got it. CuCl2. We need 2 of these Cls because each one has a -1 charge to balance out the copper 2. Let's try this. Lead 4 chloride. PbCl. Well, we already know that Cl is -1. So what is the charge of the lead? Easiest question of the year. What is the charge of the lead? If you look up lead here, what is its charge? Doesn't tell us anything, does it, Jonah? Right? This right here tells us the charge of the lead. So it's very easy. The charge of the lead is +4. So how are we going to write this? Pb what? Cl what?
Pb4Cl3?
Nope. What's the least common multiple of 4 and 1?
4.
4. 4 divided by 4 is 1 lead. 4 divided by 1 is 4 chlorides. PbCl4. Just like up here, we needed 2 negatives to balance out the +2 charge of the copper. Down here, we need 4 negatives to balance out the +4 charge of lead. That's going to do it for homework tonight. Please go down through here and here. Again, keeping in mind, if you didn't do this, you are probably very lost right now. So make sure you watch both the Zoom from today as well as the Zoom and the work yesterday. Make sure that you do get caught up because tomorrow it gets 4 times harder again. And if you were sitting there going like, oh, that stuff, that Roman numeral stuff, that wasn't 4 times harder, that means that you're probably doing okay as a chemistry student. It's not supposed to be too much harder, but 4 times harder than something that's quite easy is definitely harder. Now we don't know and we have to find these charges. So do make sure that you check out the Zoom meeting. Also, you can see me go through this by going to Thursday class assignment. By clicking here, it goes through all of that information. And here is a video, let's see, 5 minutes, which is a little shorter than the one I'm doing today with the Zoom, but it also has some Quizlets. Don't worry about this. Don't take that quiz. I'll edit that and delete that off. But it has a Quizlet down there for you that you can practice these skills. Questions?
How's your day going?
It's going great. Yeah. They just dropped a bunch of new information on us with the opening and stuff like that. So
That's cool.
I was a little bit nervous about it, but I mean, it doesn't actually change the teaching requirements for me. It'll just be kids in the room, but I'm still going to be doing it basically from the computer. So, and I think
Are you shopping for nice masks to wear?
I've got 3 masks.